I'm Alan, 52M, and I've been married to my wife Carla, 50F, for 28 years. We have 2 children, our son Jack, 24M, and our daughter Betty, 21F. Our family has always been close-knit, but recent events have put a strain on our relationships that I never thought possible. Carla and I met in college. We were both studying business, and we hit it off immediately. After graduation, we got married and started our careers. We always knew we wanted children, but we decided to wait until we were financially stable. Jack came along 5 years into our marriage, and Betty followed 3 years later. From the beginning, Jack was a bright and curious child. He was always asking questions, taking things apart to see how they worked, and putting them back together. By the time he was in elementary school, he was already showing a keen interest in computers and technology. Carla and I did our best to nurture this interest, buying him books on coding and even enrolling him in summer camps focused on computer science. As Jack grew older, his passion for technology only intensified. In high school, he was president of the computer club and even developed a simple app that helped students organize their homework assignments. We were so proud of him and his accomplishments. When it came time for college applications, Jack had his heart set on attending a prestigious university known for its computer science program. We were thrilled when he was accepted with a partial scholarship. It was a dream come true for all of us. Jack's first year at university was everything we hoped it would be. He excelled in his classes, made new friends, and even started working on a promising side project with some classmates. We looked forward to his calls home, filled with excitement about what he was learning and the opportunities ahead of him. It was during his sophomore year that things began to change. Jack met Megan, 23F, at a campus party. When he first told us about her, we were happy for him. Jack had always been a bit shy around girls, and we were glad he had found someone he connected with. The first time we met Megan was during Parents' Weekend that fall. She seemed nice enough, if a bit reserved. She was an art major, which surprised us given Jack's usual social circle of computer science and engineering students. But we figured opposites attract, and we were just happy to see Jack so content. However, as the months went by, we started noticing subtle changes in Jack's behavior and attitude. His calls home became less frequent and shorter. When we did talk, he seemed distracted and less enthusiastic about his studies. We tried to chalk it up to the natural process of growing up and becoming more independent, but something felt off. It was during Jack's winter break that we really started to worry. He spent most of his time at home texting Megan or talking to her on the phone. When we suggested family activities, he'd make excuses to stay in his room. Even Betty, who had always been close to her brother, commented on how different he seemed. When Jack returned to university for the spring semester, things went from bad to worse. We started getting emails from his academic advisor expressing concern about his falling grades and missed classes. When we tried to talk to Jack about it, he brushed off our concerns, saying he was just going through a rough patch and would turn things around. But he didn't. As the semester progressed, we received more worrying emails. Jack was skipping important project meetings, turning in assignments late, and his grades were plummeting. We tried calling him more frequently, but he rarely picked up. When he did, he was defensive and evasive. It all came to a head during Jack's junior year. We received a call from the university informing us that Jack was on academic probation. If he didn't improve his grades significantly, he was at risk of losing his scholarship and possibly being asked to leave the program. Desperate to understand what was going on, Carla and I decided to make a surprise visit to Jack's campus. When we arrived at his dorm, his roommate told us he hadn't seen Jack in days. Apparently, he had been spending most of his time at Megan's off-campus apartment. We found the apartment and knocked on the door. When Jack opened it, we barely recognized him. He looked thin and tired, with dark circles under his eyes. The apartment was a mess, with empty takeout containers and dirty clothes strewn everywhere. And there was a smell, something acrid and chemical that made my stomach turn. When we tried to talk to Jack, he exploded. He accused us of not understanding him, of trying to control his life. He said we had never supported his relationship with Megan, that we were too focused on his grades and not on his happiness. In the middle of his tirade, Megan emerged from the bedroom, looking just as disheveled as Jack. That's when I noticed the track marks on her arms. I tried to stay calm, to reason with Jack. I told him we were worried about him, that we just wanted to help. But he wouldn't listen. He packed a bag, saying he was done with school and done with us. He and Megan left, and we had no idea where they were going. Carla was inconsolable. We spent the next few days talking to Jack's professors and the university administration, trying to figure out what had happened and what could be done. But without Jack's cooperation, there wasn't much they could do. He had essentially dropped out. The next few months were a blur of worry and frustration. We tried everything we could think of to reach Jack. We called, we texted, we emailed. We reached out to his friends, but most of them hadn't heard from him in months. We even hired a private investigator, but he couldn't tell us much beyond confirming that Jack and Megan were still in the city, moving from one cheap motel to another. Betty was caught in the middle of all this. She was angry at Jack for putting us through this stress, but she was also worried about her brother. She tried reaching out to him on social media, but he had blocked her on everything. We only heard from Jack sporadically over the next year. He'd occasionally show up for a family dinner or holiday, but things were tense and awkward. He always came alone, making excuses for why Megan couldn't attend. He looked worse each time we saw him, thinner, more haggard, with a nervous energy that was painful to watch. Last week, out of the blue, Jack called us. He said he wanted to meet and talk things over. Carla and I were cautiously optimistic. We agreed to meet at a local cafe, hoping that maybe, finally, Jack was ready to accept our help. When we arrived at the cafe, we were shocked by Jack's appearance. He looked even worse than the last time we'd seen him. His clothes were dirty and hung loosely on his thin frame. His eyes were bloodshot, darting around nervously. He told us that he and Megan were engaged and planning to get married in a few months. Before we could even process this news, he dropped the real reason for the meeting. They needed money. A lot of money. For the wedding and to start their life together, he said. I was stunned. After everything that had happened, after all the pain and worry we'd been through, Jack's first real conversation with us in months was about money. I asked him how much they needed, dreading the answer. $30,000, he said, not meeting our eyes. Without thinking, I said no. Jack's face crumpled, and he stormed out of the cafe without another word. Carla called after him, but he didn't look back. Now, Carla is furious with me. She says I've driven Jack away for good this time, that I should have given him the money to keep him close, to have a chance to help him. Betty is caught in the crossfire, trying to mediate between all of us while dealing with her own pain and confusion. I feel like I'm losing my son, and I don't know what to do. The bright, curious boy who used to light up talking about computers and coding is gone, replaced by this angry, desperate stranger. Was I wrong to refuse? Should I have given him the money to keep the peace? I'm torn between my love for my son and my fear that I'm enabling destructive behavior. I keep replaying everything in my mind, wondering where we went wrong. Did we push him too hard? Did we not push hard enough? How did we not see this coming? And most importantly, how do we get our son back? Any advice would be appreciated. I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to save my family. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It's been a difficult time for our family, but your comments have helped me gain some perspective on our situation. After the incident at the cafe, Carla and I had a long, emotional talk. We've been married for nearly 3 decades, but this is the biggest challenge we've ever faced as a couple. We realized that we needed more information before making any decisions about how to proceed with Jack. We decided to reach out to some of Jack's old friends to see if they could shed any light on what's been going on with him. We started with Tom, 24M, Jack's best friend since middle school. Tom and Jack were inseparable growing up. They bonded over their shared love of video games and computers, often spending entire weekends working on coding projects together. When Jack left for university, Tom stayed local, attending a community college and then starting his own small tech business. We invited Tom over for dinner, hoping he might have some insights into Jack's situation. At first, Tom was hesitant to talk, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of betraying Jack's confidence. But as we shared our concerns and the details of our recent encounter with Jack, Tom's resolve seemed to crumble. What Tom told us was deeply concerning. According to him, Jack's relationship with Megan had been troubled from the start. Tom had met Megan a few times early in their relationship and had immediately felt uneasy about her. He described her as manipulative and controlling, saying she would guilt Jack into spending all his time with her and skipping classes or study sessions. Tom told us that Megan had convinced Jack to drop out of university, telling him that he didn't need a degree to be successful. She painted a picture of them starting their own business together, saying Jack's coding skills and her artistic talents would be a perfect match. She even persuaded him to quit his part-time job at a local tech startup, insisting that she would support them both while they got their business off the ground. But according to Tom, no real work ever materialized. Instead, Jack and Megan had been living off money from her parents, who Tom described as wealthy but distant. However, that well was starting to run dry, which Tom suspected was the real reason behind Jack's sudden request for money from us. The most alarming part of our conversation with Tom was when he mentioned his suspicions about drug use. He had noticed needle marks on Megan's arms the last time he saw her, and Jack had been evasive when Tom asked about it. Tom admitted he had distanced himself from Jack over the past year, feeling helpless and unsure of how to help his friend. This information hit us hard. Carla and I spent several sleepless nights discussing what to do. We knew we had to intervene somehow, but we were terrified of pushing Jack further away. We considered everything from tough love to simply giving him the money he asked for, hoping it would keep him close enough for us to help. After much deliberation, we decided to try to contact Megan's parents. It took some detective work to find their contact information, but we finally managed to get in touch with them. To our surprise, they were receptive to our call. The Johnsons, Megan's parents, were just as worried as we were, if not more so. They told us that Megan had a history of drug abuse dating back to her high school years. She had been in and out of rehab several times, but it never seemed to stick. They had been trying to get her help for years, but she always refused, accusing them of trying to control her life. The Johnsons were shocked to hear about the engagement and the request for money. They hadn't heard from Megan in months and had no idea things had gotten so serious with Jack. They shared our concerns about the relationship and agreed that something needed to be done. Together with the Johnsons, we decided to stage an intervention. We knew it was risky, but we felt we had no other choice. We contacted a professional interventionist who specialized in cases involving drug abuse and codependent relationships. After several planning sessions, we set a date for the intervention. The day of the intervention was tense. We gathered at the Johnsons' house, along with Tom, the interventionist, and a few other close friends and family members. We had asked Jack and Megan to come over for what they thought was going to be a family dinner to discuss wedding plans. When they arrived, they were clearly surprised to see all of us gathered there. Jack immediately became defensive, accusing us of ambushing him. Megan tried to leave several times, but her parents managed to convince her to stay and listen. The intervention was emotionally draining for everyone involved. We all took turns expressing our love and concern for Jack and Megan, sharing specific instances of how their behavior had affected us. The interventionist guided the conversation, keeping things focused and preventing it from devolving into accusations or arguments. At first, both Jack and Megan were angry and resistant. They accused us of not understanding their love, of trying to tear them apart. But as the hours went by, and as more and more people shared their concerns and experiences, we began to see cracks in their facade. The turning point came when Tom spoke. He reminded Jack of their shared dreams and ambitions, of the coding projects they used to work on together. He talked about how much he missed his friend and how worried he had been. Something in Tom's words seemed to reach Jack in a way that none of us had been able to. After what felt like an eternity, Jack finally broke down. He admitted that things weren't as rosy as he and Megan had made them out to be. He confessed that they were deeply in debt, not just to Megan's parents but to some dangerous people as well. He also confirmed our worst fears. Megan's drug use had spiraled out of control, and he had started using as well, though he insisted he could stop anytime he wanted. Faced with the united front of both families and the inescapable reality of their situation, Megan also broke down. She agreed to go to rehab, admitting that she needed help. Jack, after some hesitation, decided to move back home with us while Megan got treatment. It's a small step, but it feels like a victory. We know there's a long road ahead of us, but for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful. We're taking it one day at a time, focusing on supporting Jack and helping him rebuild his life. The Johnsons are taking Megan to a long-term residential treatment facility tomorrow. Jack is scared and conflicted about being separated from her, but he understands it's necessary. We've arranged for him to start seeing a therapist who specializes in addiction and codependency. I know we're not out of the woods yet. Recovery is a long and difficult process, and there will likely be setbacks along the way. But at least now we're all on the same page, working together towards healing. I'll keep you all updated as things progress. Thank you again for your support and advice. It truly made a difference in how we approached this difficult situation. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments with you all. These past weeks have been a roller coaster of emotions for our family, but we're slowly finding our footing. After the intervention, Megan went into a 60-day inpatient rehab program. The Johnsons have been keeping us updated on her progress. They say she's doing well, but it's still early days. Jack moved back home with us and has been attending therapy sessions 3 times a week to work through his own issues. It hasn't been easy, but we're seeing progress. The first few weeks were the hardest. Jack went through withdrawal, which was painful to watch. There were nights when Carla and I took turns sitting with him, holding his hand as he shook and sweated. It brought back memories of when he was a little boy, sick with the flu, and we'd stay up all night to comfort him. But this was so much worse because we knew it was more than just a physical illness he was fighting. As Jack's body cleared of the drugs, he started opening up more about his experiences with Megan. He told us how she would manipulate him, playing on his insecurities and isolating him from everyone who cared about him. She convinced him that we didn't really love him, that we only cared about his achievements and not about him as a person. She told him that she was the only one who truly understood and accepted him. It was heartbreaking to hear how much Jack had been struggling. There were times when he wanted to reach out to us but felt too ashamed or scared. He admitted that the request for money was Megan's idea. She wanted to use it to buy drugs and pay off some dangerous people she owed money to. Jack said he knew it was wrong, but he felt trapped and didn't know how else to get out of the situation. Jack has been working hard to get his life back on track. He's been in contact with his university about the possibility of re-enrolling. It's not going to be easy. He's missed a lot of time and his GPA took a big hit. But his former academic advisor remembers him as a promising student and is willing to work with him on a plan to catch up. Jack is hopeful that he can return next semester, even if it means starting with just a couple of classes. To help pay off his debts and start rebuilding his life, Jack has found a part-time job at a local computer repair shop. It's not the high-tech work he once dreamed of, but it's a start, and it's helping him regain some confidence in his skills. Carla and I have been attending family therapy sessions with Jack. It's been challenging, forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our family dynamics. We've had to acknowledge that our high expectations and focus on achievement may have contributed to Jack's feelings of inadequacy and his vulnerability to Megan's manipulation. It's not easy to face these things, but it's helping us understand each other better and rebuild our relationship on a stronger foundation. Betty has been incredibly supportive throughout this process. She's been spending a lot of time with Jack, helping him reconnect with old friends and rediscover the interests and hobbies he'd abandoned during his time with Megan. Last week, she convinced him to join her at a local coding meetup. Jack was nervous about going, but he came back energized and excited, talking about new programming languages and projects in a way we hadn't heard in years. As for Megan, we've had limited contact with her. Her parents keep us updated on her progress in rehab. They say she's doing well, participating in group therapy and working on addressing the underlying issues that led to her drug use. Jack has been struggling with his feelings for her. He knows their relationship was toxic, but he still cares for her and worries about her recovery. We've made it clear to Jack that while we support his recovery, we cannot support a relationship with Megan, at least not until she's made significant progress in her own recovery and they've both had time to work on themselves independently. Jack seems to understand this, though I can tell it's difficult for him. There was a tense moment last week when Megan tried to contact Jack from rehab. She left a voicemail begging him to wait for her and promising things would be different when she got out. Jack was upset and confused after hearing the message. He spent hours talking it through with his therapist and with us. In the end, he decided not to respond, recognizing that he needed to focus on his own recovery right now. We're taking things day by day. There are good days and bad days, but overall, we're moving in the right direction. Jack is slowly becoming more like his old self, laughing more, talking about his interests, and making plans for the future. Yesterday, he spent hours tinkering with an old computer, trying to upgrade it. It reminded me so much of when he was younger, and it gave me hope that the son we knew is still in there, finding his way back to us. We know there's still a long way to go, but we're committed to supporting Jack through this journey. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It means more than you know. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on our family's journey. These past months have been filled with challenges, setbacks, and small victories, but overall, we've made significant progress. Jack has made remarkable strides in his recovery. He re-enrolled in university and just finished his first semester back. It wasn't easy catching up after being away for so long, but he threw himself into his studies with a determination we hadn't seen in years. He managed to pull off decent grades, even making the dean's list in a couple of his classes. He's talking about internships and his future career again, which is wonderful to see. Our family relationships have improved significantly. The family therapy sessions have helped us communicate better and understand each other's perspectives. We've learned to listen more and judge less, to support without smothering. Jack and Betty have become closer than ever. They've started working on a small app together in their free time, combining Jack's coding skills with Betty's design abilities. It's been amazing to see them collaborating and supporting each other. Carla and I feel like we've reconnected with our son. We're learning to balance our natural inclination to protect him with the need to let him make his own decisions and learn from his mistakes. It's not always easy, but we're getting better at it. As for Megan, she completed her rehab program and has been living in a sober living facility. Jack has had some contact with her, but they both agreed that they need to focus on their individual recoveries. It's been hard for Jack, but he recognizes that their relationship wasn't healthy and that they both have a lot of work to do on themselves before they can consider any kind of relationship, even a friendship. There have been challenges along the way. Jack had a brief relapse about 3 months ago when the stress of school and everything else got to him. He disappeared for a weekend, and we were frantic with worry. But he came back on his own, admitting what had happened and asking for help. We were able to get him back on track quickly, and he's been even more committed to his recovery since then. One unexpected positive outcome of this whole experience has been a shift in Jack's career goals. While he still loves coding, he's become interested in using his skills to help others struggling with addiction. He's been volunteering at a local youth center, teaching basic coding skills to at-risk teens. He says it helps him stay accountable and gives him a sense of purpose. Looking back, I realize how close we came to losing Jack. I'm grateful every day that we were able to intervene when we did. I've learned so much about addiction, codependency, and the importance of setting boundaries while still showing love and support. Our family isn't perfect, and we still have our struggles, but we're facing them together now. Those dealing with similar issues, don't give up hope. Recovery is possible, but it takes time, patience, and a lot of hard work. Don't be afraid to reach out for help, to professionals, support groups, or loved ones. You don't have to face this alone.